So, good morning and welcome. I'm Rev Gy, delighted to be here. Thank you for sharing this time with us. You're right, the weather is so beautiful. You could be doing a million different things in your backyard, in your garden, and here you are instead because of that drought, because you care, because this is the community you've chosen, or this is the community you're checking out. And maybe you're checking us out online, or you attend online on a regular basis, so I welcome you too as well. I am extremely tired. I'm very, very tired because we have this beloved dog of ours who's at least 16 years old, and he's a big boy. He's a pit bull lab mix, a faultless dog. This dog has been nothing but wonderful his entire life, and he's, tomorrow we're calling the vet. They'll come to the house. And he's a wonderful boy, but you would think that his body has failed already so much that he can't fail anymore, and then each morning is worse. And this morning, he was just walking in circles, left side. I don't know what happened in there. But he can't go outside anymore. He falls, he can't get up. So we have to be there with him all the time and then pick him up and restore as much dignity and possibility to his days as we can. And our decision was, he's always been a very enthusiastic eater. So we said that when that goes, it's time. Because his body has been failing him now for quite some time. And so today he refused breakfast, and we'll see about dinner, but either way, we need to make the call because this is no longer kind. But I've been up all night, so I'm just buzzing with tiredness. I don't know if you've ever been that tired. I was up with him. And then he goes outside, he walks out there, middle of the night, and then kind of gets lost in thought and just stands there and slowly starts falling to the ground, and then gotta go pick him up, and that's how it was. So, he's a boy who, this is what his life is about now. He used to be full of life, and he was so fast and loved to run. And we take him to the dog park, and one of his favorite things was to rile up the other dogs in there and have them chase him. And he'd be just running away and then zigzagging. That's what his life was then about. Then, as he matured more and more, he started slowing down a little bit, but still always loved chasing the ball, eating. And as the seasons of his life changed, so did his needs. Because this is what happens. It happens to him, and then it happens to us. It's just the way of it. And as his needs changed, we needed to adjust our care to him. And again, that's what it takes when we live together. We assess where we are at each moment in time, and then if we pay attention, we can make adjustments. If we don't pay attention, we're going to miss the signs. If we don't care, we're definitely going to miss the signs, and we won't be willing to make the adjustments, and we might even deny that adjustments have ever been needed, because there's no caring. And that's what society is like. That's the layout of society. There are those who pay attention. There are those who don't. There are those who don't care. There are those who care too much and can't take it and end up checking out because it hurts so much to witness the not caring of others. The generations. Each generation grows up during different needs. So caring for each generation looks different. The caring of each generation looks different. Caring for, and then the caring of the generation looks different. Now, I'm going to read a quote to you, and you will guess who I'm quoting, okay? The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children now are tyrants. Who that? Yes. Anybody else? Yes? There you go. It was Socrates. Yeah, you were close, very, very close. Joel takes the... yeah, you know, that's the thing. That the new generation comes in, and it's different than us. And we sit in judgment. We could also just sit in assessment. We could sit in paying attention, and in understanding, and in compassion, and curiosity. Why are they different? What has changed? How is it that I am like this and my offspring is like that? How could that be? And then also, my second offspring is different from that. That's even more different. And I can't even speak of the third one. What's happening here? So, a lot of dynamics. Within families, there is the systems that are at place. So no child is born into the same family, okay? Because the firstborn is born to parents who have never had children before. They weigh that child every day. They coddle it. They weigh the poop. They look at the color. They call the doctor. Today it's different. By the time the third child calls, it's like, let the first kid take care, whatever. It's how it is. You know, my parents never ever showed up for the teacher-student meetings. Like with me, with the first one, all the time. With the second one, with my middle sister, almost all the time. With me, absolutely never. It's just like, whatever. It doesn't matter. And so no child is born into the same family. So obviously, children won't be the same because the systems have shifted. The second child is born into a family that's already had one, so it's no big deal, but they also have an older sister to either terrorize them or help them, depending, right? You guys know how that goes. And then the third child, this one, has 4 people to tell them what she thinks. All the time. So, you know, the systems change. And that's something we will talk about in that class that I'm going to offer. So if you're interested, come, because you will learn much about yourself. You will learn much about systems. You will learn much about generations. It's a very, very good course. So that's within family. But generations are different too. Just think about this. And also, what you need to remember, that though we feel very unique, it's all cyclical. It's very interesting how we just reproduce the same cycles over and over, but they're far apart from each other, a long lifetime away from each other, enough that we don't remember. We no longer have personal memory of what that feels like. And I tell you how strange that is. I grew up in communism. My sisters have children, right, who are just not so much younger than I am, but they have no experience of communism. And I just see how very differently they view life. They have no idea what it feels like to be in an authoritarian regime. So for them, when an authoritarian regime comes in, they don't recognize it. I see it right away. They live in Hungary. Orban is the president there, who's a total authoritarian. And they don't necessarily recognize it. And then when they recognize it, they don't understand what it means to give up rights. That once you gave up a right, how extremely difficult and often bloody it is to get it back. Never give up rights. Never give up rights. Like, that is a solid belief that I hold. Never, ever give up any right, because getting it back may take generations and a lot of bloodshed. Don't do it. So fight for it while you have it. Anyway, generations. Think about this, okay? There's a cycle with the generations. There's like spring, summer, fall, and winter. And the spring generation usually follows a crisis. And this generation comes together and they do great things. Think of the greatest generation. They went in their youth, fought a world war, the Second World War. They came home and they built and strengthened institutions. They rolled up their sleeves. They were doers. Think of all the institutions, the 3- and 4-letter institutions that they created. The Social Security, the FHA, the many, many institutions that they created. Because they lived through a terrible crisis, and that shaped them. And they were the never again generation. We will not let that happen. We will put safety checks in place to make sure that this can never happen again. We will form NATO. We will make sure that there will never be a third world war. The second one nearly wiped us out. NATO will be there to protect us. Clearly, there is still a conflict in the world, but we are creating safety checks. They are the doers. So you would think that they would give birth to a generation who then are already imbued with all the knowing, with the experiences that these parents have been through. And then the next generation will just want to further strengthen the institutions and create even more safety checks. And instead, the boomers came. And Woodstock. And the doers gave birth to a generation of awakeners. So these are people who search for spiritual dimension, answers of a different dimension. They're not crazy about all the sacrifice and all the doing. They want to enjoy. They want to live in luxury. They want to, they have bad manners. They have contempt for authority. And then they are the generation now, you would think, if they are such spiritual seekers and they care a lot about relationships with each other, that they would give birth to a generation who would be even more awakened and who would really strengthen relationships with one another and would work for harmony and peace in the world. After all, I mean, love is in the air and it's connection. And instead, they give birth to the Generation X, who are very individualistic, materialistic. If I got it, then it's good. Because think about it. This is the Generation X is also called the lost generation. They are the kids that their parents took pills so they wouldn't have them. This is the first generation where this is happening. They are the kids who are thrown in the back of the car, seat belt, and we go on rides, and who cares if they fly out of the car? They'll be fine. We'll put them out to play. Let them go. Get on their bikes. They'll be back for dinner. That's Generation X. So you would think that Generation X now, who is very individualistic and who materialistic and who is very rooted in a sense of self, would give birth to a generation that is even more secure, even more confident, knows even better what they want and how the world should look like. And instead, they give birth to the millennials. And the millennials are group thinkers. They are team workers. They are very good at communication. This is a generation that the Xers decided we're not going to raise them like we were raised. Instead, they dote on them. So the helicopter parents, they become these parents who are very involved in their children's lives. And their children become less confident, less individualistic, more group thinkers. And you see what I'm saying? You see how that goes? Like what you think should happen doesn't happen. It's strange, right? But then there's another aspect of these generations. The spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter. These cycles. So if the greatest generation lived in this spring, created the spring of this country, where institutions were strengthened, created and strengthened, then comes summer. And these are people who think that institutions are overrated. So they don't take care of them quite so much. Also, there's another reason why they don't take care of them. Because they are there and they are working. And do we have a saying, don't fix anything that's not broken? So they may not be complete. They may not encompass everything, but they are there and they are working. So then you don't pay attention to that which you have. And instead, you rebel against it. And then some things you undo, some things you just don't take care of. And then comes the next generation who realizes that we are actually worse off than the generations before us. Did you know that the latest Gallup poll, they do this happiness of the countries, who are the happiest countries on earth? And it's the Scandinavian countries. So Finland is number 1, then Denmark, Sweden, all the high taxpayers, by the way. For the first time, the US has slid below 20. So for the first time. Up till now, we were always in the top 20. We're now 24. But the other interesting thing is that the 60-plus generations report a higher level of happiness than the 30 and under. What does that tell you? That institutions are eroding, that the planet is in trouble, and this generation is feeling extremely insecure and threatened. Now, do you see then how, if you're dealing with circumstances that are different, how the actions we take must also be different? So now you understand why is it that different generations have different needs. They want to meet them, they want them to be met differently. And then other generations who have other needs want to meet these needs, want to meet these needs the way they know how their needs need to be met. Get it? It's complicated. So we don't hear each other, we don't see each other. I don't remember who said this, that we don't see things and people the way they are, we see them as we are. We are the point of reference at all time. And then there's conflict within the generations. Now, the smart ones, the people who study these cycles say that we are now again in winter. As cycles go, in winter. Remember what precedes spring? Crisis. So the greatest generation's crisis was the Second World War. In the winter, the political systems, there's a shift in them. There's a reorganization. There has always been, through these cycles that this country has had, there was always a reorganization of the political systems. Do we see signs of that? According to the smart ones, supposedly we are halfway into this winter, certainly not on our way out. We don't know what spring is going to look like. But usually in the spring, people come together. And people start rebuilding, people start forming communities again, and then we fall apart again, and so it goes. I certainly don't know if it's possible to break these cycles. But I'd be curious to try. I'd also be interested to try because, well, it informs and it shapes human history. So let me give you a little example. In this church, we brought up the name change. There were some of us who felt strongly that our name should be changed. There were some of us who felt strongly that our name shouldn't be changed. And there were those who felt strongly both ways. And what informs our strong feelings? You know, we were singing these songs today, and I was reading the words to the first song, and I wonder when that was written. To me, that feels like maybe it was at a time like the greatest generation. We'll come together, we'll build a place, you know, that will serve us all. This is where we're going to work towards peace for all. And in the second song, Lean on Me, I'm guessing probably a boomer, you know. We write different songs. So I think the most important thing is to talk and to listen to one another. I think we should sit down with these younger people who are coming to our community and ask, what do you need? We created this. We built this. This has served our needs. It's still serving our needs. But we want to serve your needs as well. What are they? And then when they tell us, let's take them seriously and let's adjust. So it's not constant push and pull, but there is the possibility of melding and coming together where both end are possible. Both end. Where my opinion doesn't need to be so important, because I understand that my opinion is rooted in my particular upbringing, in my particular life experience, and I really shouldn't think that it should trump everybody else's needs. Because if I do, then there's conflict. Then we'll stick it to each other. Then we'll work in spite of each other. But if we would sit down with these younger people and ask, what do you want? What do you think? And then adjust. So we don't care for them the way we need to be cared for. Get it? But we care for them the way they need to be cared for. And who are the best ones to tell us? They are. Now we know what they should want, what they should need. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Just like our parents knew for us, and what we know about them, we know about what they should know. But we need to change that. We need to change that because globally, we're in the winter. And did you know that these 20, 30-some-year-olds actually don't think that democracy is that important? They really don't. They're looking around and say, well, what has democracy brought us? A broken planet, a bunch of broken institutions, nothing's getting done. Look at the boomers in Congress. I mean, they are the ones now shaping the political landscape, the boomers. Look what that looks like. They can't find their way out of a paper bag, let alone pass policies. So they think democracy is not all that is made out to be. It's much easier and faster to change a system when one person is in charge. And there's always a person who's willing to be in charge. And that's a problem. That's a problem because when you give up rights, it is very difficult. It often takes generations and a lot of bloodshed to get it back. So I think, personally, that we should double down on democracy while listening to the needs of the new generations that are coming and meeting those needs. And I don't know how to do that. I know how to do that in my family. Well, I think I know. Well, okay, so I'm willing to do that in my family. I'm certainly willing to do that in this community. But I think we should come together and see how can we do that in the larger community, and then keep affecting the larger and larger and larger community, because we are in a winter cycle. And this winter cycle, in the past, has always ended in a very terrible war. The Civil War, the World Wars. It's always ended that way. Napoleonic War, that was a winter cycle as well. So we're in that cycle, and we should mitigate. We should care. We should care anyway, but being in a winter cycle, we should really, really care. So I don't want to scare you. That's not my point. My point is to inspire you to listen. My point is to inspire you to act, to reach out, outside of your comfort zone to younger generations and start working together. Because I think if we do that, we can mitigate the cycle. If we don't do that, my guess is we will recycle the cycle. And then there will be a spring generation. We don't know what that's going to look like. They're probably going to come together because they have lived through the big tragedy of this winter cycle. And for a while they'll come together, and for a while they'll build together. And then if we've learned no lessons, we keep repeating the same cycles. Well, I'd like to interrupt the cycle. So, it is really hope and possibility I want us to walk out of here with today. Hope and possibility that begins here with an openness and the willingness to put this one a little bit on the back burner and take that generation and put them on the front burner. So there can be life and possibility and just a different future. And so it is.